Hello there. Hello there, welcome to my Star Wars Obiwan review. Obi-Wan's been one of my favorite Star Wars characters for a long time. I remember reading a lot of the books as a kid, a lot of the Legend series about him as an apprentice and so on. Big fan of the series. I don't remember if it really holds up today, but I really enjoyed it as a kid, so I was definitely looking forward to this series. A lot of my Star Wars stuff is not easily accessible, so we're just hanging out with Revan today. I do have the Obi-Wan and the White Revan coming, so eventually, if I keep doing more of these, I can add a little bit more to the desk. A little barren, but I think Revan can help us get us through. You know, KOTOR is one of my favorite Star Wars properties of all time, so hopefully the show's good. A lot of the Disney shows have been pretty good. Mandalorian's good. I like a couple of Disney movies. I'm not a big fan of the new trilogy, but I did like Rogue One. So hopefully the rest of the movies will stay away from the Skywalkers and do their own thing, because I feel like that's when the Disney series have done their best. But I think this Obi-Wan series has been pretty good. The second episode I think was stronger than the first. First kind of sets a lot of stuff up. There will be spoilers, so be prepared for that. I'm going to go over both episodes and give my thoughts on them. So the first one opens up with almost a 4-minute recap of the movies and what led up to Obi-Wan's exile, and they showed a little bit of Order 66, which is pretty cool. We didn't get to see all sides of that and how some Jedi escaped, and then it opens to Obi-Wan's essentially like he's like a meat processor or something. He's got a job on Tatooine, trying to just fit in so no one sees him. There's a whole setup where the Inquisitors know that there's the third sister that's really looking for him, and I'm sure they're going to build off of that. The Inquisitors are on Tatooine, and they find one Jedi. Because Jedi are compassionate, so they start torturing some people, and one Jedi shows himself, and they try using that Jedi to get Obi-Wan out, but Obi-Wan's like come to terms with that they lost, and he's just living, and he's watching over Luke, and Owen and him don't have a great relationship. Owen's he's now my boy, you can stay away because he doesn't need to be trained since you failed the first time, so they have a strained relationship. I try to throw a little bit of humor, like there's this Jawa that sells things to Obi-Wan, and he kept saying how he smelled. I mean, of course, Obi-Wan lives in a cave and he works in a meat factory all day, so I'm sure he does. And they also kept saying how he looks old, but in this, I think Obi-Wan would be in his mid-40s in the Star Wars timeline. I'm not sure how old Ewan McGregor is, but this is the best he's ever acted as Obi-Wan. I mean, I liked him. I mean, a lot of people don't like the prequel trilogies. I'm a big fan of, I think Revenge of the Sith is great. Attack of the Clones, not so much, but I've grown to not hate it as much. And Phantom Menace, I think the last 15 minutes are pretty good. And there's bits and parts of it, but I was a young, preteen, so I was super into the movies and seeing them in the theater. So, I grew up with the original trilogy, but as a kid, I loved the prequels too. So it's just in a different way. But Obi-Wan was always one of my favorite Jedis. I'm a huge fan of Revan. Revan and Obi-Wan are two of my favorites. So when I heard the series is coming out, I was very excited. Clone Wars is great. So, give me more of that stuff, the High Republic stuff. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, Obi-Wan's just blending in, living life. This Jedi gets found, and the Inquisitors have a good idea that Kenobi's probably around there somewhere. Vader obviously really wants to get Kenobi because of what Obi-Wan did, beat him at the Mustafar, I think it's called. So they try to get him out with his other Jedi. They injure this Jedi instead of running. This Jedi I forget his name, runs into Obi-Wan. Jari, maybe, something like that. It feels something with a J. But this Jedi runs into Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's just like, hey, listen, we lost. Hide your saber. Blend in. Like, Obi-Wan's like he's a defeated, he's accepted the loss, and he's just trying to do his last duties and just stay away from the Empire and everything. So they also show other things, like they show on Alderaan how Leia's growing up, and she's a little bit different, but you can kind of tell she's probably a little bit force sensitive, which really made me curious how like the Inquisitors are looking out Jedi, and I know there's other force sensitive people, but you think they'd be able to pick up on the Jedi, but I can kind of see where they're going, because like obviously Obi-Wan in this, they show later he's kind of out of practice, and he says in another part, I'm not the Jedi I used to be. I'm not the same guy anymore. I'm different. It's been 10 years. So Leia gets captured by Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers as a villain, so that was an interesting cameo. They do have some pretty good cameos. They do that a lot. So he gets a holo call from Leia's adoptive parents saying, "You're the only one we can trust. You're the only one that can do this." And he just says, "You got to find someone else. Hire a bounty hunter. Bring an army. I can't help you. I'm not the Jedi I used to be." And then Leia's stepdad comes to the planet and says, "We really, really need you." And Obi-Wan's kind of persuaded because the Inquisitors are, they killed that Jedi that came up to Obi-Wan. They hung him up in the middle of the street, and they also threatened to kill Owen. Except the lead Inquisitor, she's the third sister. She's super aggressive. The leader one kind of told her to, do it his way. And you can tell that there's a lot of tension within the ranks about the way they go about doing things. So the second episode is pretty much at the end of the first, Obi-Wan takes a transport ship. He's going to go save Leia. He goes to this planet. It's very Blade Runner-esque. It's an interesting planet. A lot of Western homages in this. It really feels like a Western movie. It's a good aesthetic for the series, I think. So he goes to this like city that's kind of like I said, it's kind of like a lot of illegal activities. I don't know what to compare it to, but it's very Blade Runner like, and he gets on the planet, and he's like, I know he's tracking the ship. He's like, I know the ship's here, so he's trying to find out how to find him, and then he finds this scoundrel that's scamming people, pretending to be a Jedi to get money from them, and he uses like magnets, and Obi-Wan kind of calls him out on it, and he tells Obi-Wan where you can find the ship, and it's in this like Star Wars like meth factory. I don't know, they're making some kind of drug or something, and the bounty hunters knew Obi-Wan would come for Leia, because the bounty hunters were, well, I guess I'll call them bounty hunters. They were hired by the third sister Inquisitor to trap Obi-Wan, because she's got a vendetta against Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan falls for it. He sneaks in there, goes to the cell that she's supposed to be in, and it turns out it's a trap. But when the three bounty hunters confront him, Obi-Wan, thinking a step ahead, uses whatever drug they're making to incapacitate them. He covers his mouth, sneaks out, gets Leia. The third sister from the Inquisition comes, and she's angry because she almost had him. She wants to bring him directly to Vader. And then Leia kind of, she's like what, 10 or 12 in this, and she doesn't trust Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan's not telling her much. And Obi-Wan, she's asked if he's a Jedi straight up. He's like, yes. And she's like, oh, show me your force powers. He's like, I can't, because, Jedi are hunted, so which makes sense. But so she sees on the holo terminal, because they put out a bounty because they know Kenobi's there. And then she runs away from him, and he's got to save her, and he's getting hunted by bounty hunters while he's trying to capture her, and he's just jumping from rooftop to rooftop. It's pretty cool. And then he takes out a couple of bounty hunters with a blaster. He's pretty good with a blaster, which is pretty impressive. Didn't use the lightsaber. He doesn't want to reveal himself. I think he's kind of afraid to use it too, because that's the whole thing, is that like he's like, we lost, I'm not a Jedi really anymore. He's kind of, living with the guilt of failing. I think this whole arc is about him coming to terms with his failure. Is like the big thing of this. He chases Leia. She almost falls to her death, but he uses his force power to save her. She finally trusts him, but in doing that, with all the conflict, the third sister finds him and the guy that was scamming people earlier changed his ways, decided to help them. So they have a transport out of there because the whole place is going lockdown because the Inquisition's trying to find Kenobi. So they go to their transport, but the third sister catches up with them, and then Obi-Wan finally draws his lightsaber. He's ready to fight her, but then the leader comes up, stops the third sister, and she ends up stabbing the leader to kind of take over. You knew that was going to come to a breaking point, but I didn't think it'd come this quickly. But this is only a 6-episode miniseries, so I guess they're going right along. I think the main conflict in an interesting that I never thought about is that she mentions, because she knows Obi-Wan's in the room, that Vader's still alive, and he like kind of panics because of course like he assumes Vader's been dead all this time, and that's when he finds out that Vader's still alive. Though my only issue with that is you think they'd feel each other through the Force because they had like a bond, but you know, I'm a little surprised about that. But overall, yeah, I'm not going to argue with it. I think it's really good, and Obi-Wan's connection probably isn't as good with the Force as it used to be, showing how he strained with saving Leia, but he was able to. So I think you'll get some good bits of that, and I think it'll be a good Obi-Wan redemption story. And I'm excited to see the arc between him and Vader, and I'm sure there's gonna be a big battle with this third sister. Yeah, I'm sure they'll get to some lightsaber fight. I'd like to see Obi-Wan do it again, and because he was always, I believe he used I forget the name of it, the third fighting style, and he was like, they always said he was a master of it. So he was always a good dueler. It'd be cool to see him do it one more time, and I'm excited to see what the rest of the series does. I'll probably do each episode as they come out. They come out every Wednesday. But first two were great. I watched them right at midnight. I wasn't planning to. I just couldn't sleep. So I was just like, well, Star Wars is on. It's Obi-Wan. Guess I'm doing this. And I did it. Glad I watched it. Kind of been thinking about it all day, what I wanted to say. So excited to see where it goes. Hope you all like it too. And may the Force be with you.